Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to have Frank Figliuzzi back on. Our friend, he serves as Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI for over 25 years as a special agent in the FBI, an expert on national security issues, author of various books, including Long Haul, Hunting the Highway Serial Killers, and his Substack is a must sign up. It's called the Frank Figliuzzi, substack.com. That's frankfigliuzzi.substack.com. Frank, and I'm a subscriber to your stuff. I always learn a lot.
Thank you.
Good to see you, my friend.
Right back at you. I subscribe to your stuff. It's awesome.
Thank you. So let's talk about Epstein stuff. And I think it's very interesting that you made a really good point to me in an email before we started, that some in the media are not making a distinction between the files released by the Democrats came from the Epstein estate, and then there are other ones released by Republicans or others that are from DOJ. So can you make a little sense of the distinction? Like what's going on? Like, because oversight, Robert Garcia, that ranking member on the Ohio Oversight Committee, released documents he said he got from the Epstein estate.
Yes. Yeah. We've got to be careful with this because I think it's not just semantics here. We've got people conflating the FBI. Let's understand something. There were two major FBI investigations, and actually, four if you count Ghislaine Maxwell, and we should. One out of FBI Miami, my old office, and then one out of FBI New York much later. Okay, you've got those massive FBI files that I am keenly interested in getting fully disclosed to the extent that they can be. And remember, Trump played a game or actually Pam Bondi played a game for Trump, saying, well, we're going to release the grand jury transcripts of which consisted of like an FBI agent testifying to the grand jury, period. That was it. Okay. Don't confuse those FBI investigative files with the emails that have been subpoenaed by the House committee of the Epstein estate. And why is that an important distinction? First, there's far less control that you can exercise in the Trump administration over what the Epstein estate hands you, right? It is what it is. You can hold them, and they have been held, by the way, since like at least August, if not longer, but you can't mess with them. They are what they are. The FBI investigative, so those are the emails. The FBI investigative files are like tons of interviews with victims and what have you, all looking at an international sex trafficking ring. So I want those released. Don't get me wrong. I love the emails being released. Yes, right. But I want those FBI files released. And that's where Bondi and the FBI and Trump do have a degree of control. Of course, we haven't seen them all yet.
I was sharing online, it was an article from a couple of years ago, around the time of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, where because in the trial they introduced certain evidence, they gave pictures of when they went into Epstein's house. And I'm pointing because it actually is not far from where I live. I mean, it's like 15 blocks away on the east side. And they have pictures that you can see online marked as government exhibits. One is filled with hard drives. Another is filled with CDs that have video and images on it. We've never seen any of that. We're told it's filled with child pornography, so we can't give it to you. I don't trust the Trump administration. I have no idea. And what I can tell you is this. I interviewed Lisa Phillips, an Epstein survivor, who said point blank, Jeffrey Epstein videotaped everything in his house, everything at the island. And he has those videos, and the videos are somewhere. And she said point blank that Jeffrey Epstein told her he was building something bigger, and that she knows firsthand. She was a model who was recruited into this as an adult, that this was not about his own sexual gratification. This was an international blackmail ring. And she said point blank, that's what this is.
It's looking more and more. I was the measured, careful guy, previously on this and saying, look, I don't know. But the more, particularly these recent emails, Dean, the more it looks like he was trying to parlay this into some power trip and even possibly a compromise. Look, he keeps talking in these emails about, I'm the one who can take Trump down. Yeah, and is it braggadocio or not? There's too many powerful people associated with this for it to simply be Epstein bragging and embellishing. And so, yes, everybody, it was well known, according to reports, that there were cameras everywhere. It wasn't so much that these were hidden cameras. That you knew if you were going into house for dinner, you're on camera. So those exist. And there's a way to do this. I'm tired of hearing about we can't release some of this stuff. It's going to hurt people. It's going to hurt the victims. Most of the victims want this out. And yes, we don't all have to look at child porn, of course. But you know who can do this? I supervised a crimes against children squad for a very painful period in my FBI career. You can do this digitally, where you're blurring victims. You can allow Congress to see it, and show them what's going on and have them report to the public. There are ways to do this, and I don't want to hear it can't be done.
And I'm glad that you put it that way, as someone who worked for 25 years in the FBI, that it can be done. We can get it released. There's certain things we don't have to. We have no idea what's in the video. And I'm not going to even suggest that Donald Trump's on the video having sex with a child or an adult who was trafficked. But say Donald Trump walking around Epstein's house when there are children there might be meaningful for America to see, or whoever else was there. This is not just about Donald Trump. This is about justice for the victims. And also, if there's accountability and the statute of limitations is not run for any of the perpetrators. But according to DOJ's own memo they released in July, they said there are more than 1,000 victims. That means there are over more than 1,000. It's not all for Jeffrey Epstein. That's the point of Lisa Phillips that I think the media misses. It was not for his satisfaction. It was far more than that. A big part was the others traffic, like Virginia Giuffre, who was pictured with Prince Andrew, said she testified in her civil deposition she was trafficked out to other men. One was Prince Andrew. There were many powerful men that were going to Epstein's island, and he was providing women or children for them. And we've got to know who these people are. I mean, at least have a sense of what's going on here. Go ahead, Frank. We're going to say something?
The size and scope of this, as you're alluding to, is almost too hard to grasp. And that's why we need a national reckoning with regard to sex trafficking of minors and powerful people. As I said, I've seen a glimpse of this in my FBI career. I also saw a glimpse of it, by the way, in my latest book, Long Haul, because it's about sex trafficking. And it is a world that most people don't even want to know about. And why am I saying this? There is legal significance in getting over the hurdle of, can we release this stuff? And is it going to hurt people? Is there a way to do it carefully? The lawsuits that might come from that, you can counter with the fact that there is a public interest, a national interest, in getting out whether people in the corridors of power, particularly in government, are indeed pedophiles, child molesters, and even equally important, are they lying to us? So this issue of Trump, we don't know. As you said, we don't know if he did anything illegal, but we need to know whether he's lying to the public when he says he didn't know about this. And we have an email staring us in the face saying, allegedly, he spent hours in the house when this victim was present.
He's in the house with Virginia, and we know it's Virginia Giuffre, who was Virginia Roberts, because the White House confirmed that's who it was, thinking it's going to help him. Virginia Giuffre testified, and it's undisputed, that she was recruited when she was 16 years old, working at Mar-a-Lago in the spa by Ghislaine Maxwell. She only was with Epstein in this circle she talked about for 2 years. So between 16 and 18. So that's the window Trump sees this teenage girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house. He's in his 40s and doesn't say anything about it. And it's around that time in 2002 when Trump says to New York Magazine, he's a terrific guy, Epstein, and he likes women on the younger side. He knew exactly what was going on. In the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, there was testimony of a woman who was 14 at the time, when she was sent for sex for Jeffrey Epstein, who testified Epstein brought her to Mar-a-Lago to meet Donald Trump in the mid-90s. Any normal adult's like, why are you hanging out with a 14-year-old? But Donald Trump, not an issue whatsoever. He didn't report it to the police. And she said, I just met him and it was no big deal. There was not any uncomfortableness. Of course, Donald Trump knew what was going on. The only question is, we know he did nothing in response. Was he a participant in the crimes, or did he turn a blind eye because it was his rich buddy doing this stuff?
Of course, the White House position on this through Caroline Leavitt is morphing even as we speak. No, Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Remember the early story? He was stealing employees.
Yep.
Now what's the story? Trump realized he was a creep. Okay, you can't have it both ways. You can't say early on, Epstein likes the ladies young, on the younger side, quote unquote. and you didn't know.
Yeah.
He was a creep, but you kicked him out because he was stealing employees. Which is it? You can't have it both ways.
And since we're both lawyers, words matter a lot. And to me, the word I jumped on earlier in the summer is when Trump was trying to be a hero. When he said, I told Epstein, you don't steal any more of my employees. And then he did it again. And I said, that's it, we're done. So there was one incident before of a young girl, a child, a woman, whoever, we don't know, that he stole, and it was for sexual purposes. I mean, Mar-a-Lago and where Epstein lived were very, very close. Donald Trump was in Epstein's house. There's no doubt. We have the White House confirming that now this week. We knew that. What I miss, Frank, in this whole thing is why corporate media doesn't talk about Donald Trump in January 2024 put in writing, I was not on Epstein's plane. Then DOJ releases records a few months later under Trump, where it shows he was on the plane 8 times, the Lolita Express. And if you look back at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, those records were introduced, and the pilot testified saying, I saw Donald Trump on the plane. How significant of a lie is that as someone who was an FBI agent?
Well, so first, I would love, I don't know if you saw earlier this week, I traveled to Bryan, Texas, and stood in front of federal prison camp Bryan, where Ghislaine Maxwell is housed. Club Fed is what I refer to it as, with her therapy puppy and the pickleball court and dining in her room at her times of her pleasure. And she's lied, I believe, quite possibly to Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General of the United States, who also says he's still the personal attorney of the president. And now is backpedaling, right? He's been confronted on this, Todd Blanche. They said, this looks like Ghislaine Maxwell lied to you. Now we're seeing emails where Epstein told her that Trump was with a victim in the house. And so I think we need to go back. Maybe even Congress needs to chat with Ghislaine Maxwell about this discrepancy. And I think it blows her out of the water. And I also think, and this is interesting, it presents an incredible dilemma for Trump as to what to do with Ghislaine. Because if you keep her in, which he now seems to be leaning toward, right? You've promised her, hey, wink, wink, nod, nod. Don't say anything bad. We're going to interview you, and you'll get out of here. We're moving into a great place. Now she starts steaming, getting pissed that she can't get out. And she starts deciding to talk. And then if you let her out, she's in the wild. And now maybe some publisher comes along and offers her $1 million for a book. It's a disaster here.
And I'm chatting with Frank Figliuzzi. Frank, that brings me back to something else. When I went through the Epstein emails, that the ones that everyone's talking about where he said Trump knew about the girls, that he was with one of the victims. This is all late 2018 to 2019. Some of the exchange are with Michael Wolff, a well-known, I would almost say notorious author of books who's written a lot of stuff critical of Trump, with a New York Times reporter at the time about, I'm the one that, to someone else we don't know, but it's all in time from late 2018 to 2019. All of a sudden in July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is indicted by Trump's DOJ for crimes, according to the indictment, that occurred between 2002 and 2005. Right. Do you have any indication of why that indictment came then for crimes that took place 15 years earlier?
Yeah, I think I might have some answers to that. A couple of things. First, again, I served in the number 2 position at FBI Miami, so I know these folks.
Okay.
I also know Julie K. Brown, who is the incredible Miami Herald reporter, who simply would not let this go. And now infamously, that there was this ridiculous sweetheart deal that was worked out where the feds, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami, handed back the case on Epstein to the locals and blessed this thing where he goes out during the day and comes and locks himself up at night. It's really unbelievable. And so Julie K. Brown comes out with an incredible series of reports called Perversion of Justice. It turns into a book. As that report is coming out, people are going, oh shit, this is going to get ugly. And at the same time, Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. Attorney in Miami, who had this sweetheart deal and gave it to the locals, he had been promoted, right? He had been named Secretary of Labor in Trump's cabinet. Yep. Looks like a reward to me. And he ultimately has to step down because of the sweetheart deal that he approved. So all of this pressure, Dean, from the press, from the public, Acosta's facing pressure. I think they feel at FBI New York now, like, so Miami's effed this up, and now they're giving it to New York because they also have venue, right? Miami's got it for Palm Beach, New York's got it for Manhattan, and here we go. That's what I think the timing was here. There is no statute of limitations when you're talking about sex trafficking for minors, so that's not an issue. I think it was, sadly, public pressure.
And there's nothing wrong with public pressure.
No.
But I want to go back to something you said. I feel like we're doing like testimony in a trial here. But a few moments ago, Mr. Figliuzzi, you said to me that if Ghislaine Maxwell gets out there and starts talking, it could be really bad for them. Well, in 2018, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was out there talking. He was talking to at least these people we saw in emails, reporters, an author of a book. We don't know who else he was talking to. I mean, I know it's speculative, but is there a scenario where you could see where they're like, we got to get this guy off the street, and then we're going to hold him without bail, and whatever happens, happens in prison? I mean, the idea of they were concerned about where Jeffrey Epstein, the powers that be, not, I don't think Donald Trump signed off on anything, but whatever the powers that be, to protect Trump, to protect others.
At this point, Dean, nothing would surprise me. And I know neither one of us are conspiracy theorists, but I've got to tell you, let's not forget that Attorney General at the time was Bill Barr when Epstein came to his demise in the federal prison. What's the point there? Well, Epstein was hired as a teacher at a New York exclusive prep school by Bill Barr's father. The Barr family and Epstein goes back. And I don't know what the hell is going on, but the number of powerful people, you referenced Prince Andrew, for God's sakes, King Charles. I mean, think about this. King Charles basically had to strip his brother of all his royal titles, kick him out of his housing. King Charles knows that his brother is very dirty. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we're finding out now that Kenneth Starr, for God's sakes, who was the special counsel, special prosecutor at the time with regard to Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, he's in very cozy emails with Epstein. Hugs and kisses, holiday hugs, Jeff. It's unfreaking believable.
He represented Trump in the impeachment trial.
Yes, he did it, and also represented Epstein. But the hugs and kisses, holiday greetings are coming before he represented Epstein, if I got this right. So yes, what's my point? Too many powerful people in positions to do something about it who don't want anything coming out. And this is why it's almost like, you know, was there a second shooter in the Kennedy assassination? This thing will never go away unless everything comes out.
And let's add one more, someone you raised already, Pam Bondi. She served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019. The very time Jeffrey Epstein, he comes out of prison, according to DOJ, he went back to his lifestyle. He's doing whatever he was going to do. And she prosecuted other people for child sex crimes. And we don't even see a hint of an investigation. And I don't care about any non-prosecution deal with the federal government. It's not going to affect the state, but she should have at least investigated him, and she didn't. And now she's the Attorney General of the United States of America. It is too neat, Frank. Like, if you're putting this in a movie, you could be like, you know, you got to break up a little bit because this is just too in your face. Like, everyone's here. Alex Acosta's here. Pam Bondi's there. You've got Kenneth Starr involved. It's just, and now you've got, and I thought this was so interesting. So on Wednesday, and the White House confirmed it because the reporting was just too detailed, they call in Lauren Boebert, the Republican congresswoman, try to get her name off the discharge petition. They bring her to the Situation Room.
Yeah.
Situation Room.
Right. And Boebert and Nancy Mace.
Right. And who's in the room, according to the New York Times? Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Why would the FBI director and the Attorney General of the United States have to be there for an issue that has nothing to do with national security, nothing to do with our safety, has something to do with Donald Trump's legacy, his name.
So a couple of thoughts, and from someone like me who's been in the Situation Rooms, plural. We always hear Situation Room. There's a bunch of situations, but been there many times. Guess what you have to do before you walk into the Situation Rooms?
Your phone.
You got to give up your phone. So if anybody's thinking about recording anything in that discussion, you can't do it. And yeah, number one. Number two, it's you're hermetically sealed in there. It's a SCIF, so you nothing's going to get in or out electronically. Number three, it adds a level of extreme gravity to the discussion, right? When you're in that sit room, you're like, wow, wow. And now you've got the AG, the FBI director, and you're feeling kind of intimidated. Hey, I don't disagree. I disagree with almost everything Nancy and Lauren say, but God bless them if they don't move their vote on this. And what might that discussion have looked like, sounded like? Hey, we've seen the files. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. Or in the sit room, maybe there is a national security aspect. Listen, what did we see in the Jeffrey Epstein emails? He's bragging about, he's talking to people about the fact that he's offering himself to the Russians, and in fact did so at a high-ranking diplomat level. I believe he claims he gave insights on Trump to Russia's UN ambassador at the time. Wow. Is there a national security aspect to this? Yeah, could be.
That's interesting. That's interesting that they could have had in good faith said, we don't want, this is a trouble. Let it go the way it is. And they're like, nope. And very last thing in the last minute here. So then Donald Trump responds today by calling for his DOJ to investigate people involved with Epstein, not himself, of course, but Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and JP Morgan. And JP Morgan issued a statement going, we cut ties long before he was ever charged again. And if the government had ever told us he was up to things, we never would have let him do banking through our bank. But what did you take of this?
Okay, so I think it's a mistake. I think Trump's made a very big error. Why do I say that? Look, the guy's saying it's a hoax. As recently as yesterday, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. It's a hoax. There's no sex trafficking ring. There's no powerful people. Blah blah blah. And so I'm launching an investigation into the sex trafficking ring and Democrats. So you can't have it both ways. And listen, I think most Americans are like, we don't care if Democrat, Republican, Independent. If, God darn it, if you're part of a child sex trafficking ring, let's get it out. So I think this actually backfires on him. I think he appears to be, even more than ever before, he's covering something up and focusing only on Democrats when Americans are like, we don't care who it is. Get it all out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Frank, I'll let you go, but what's the Substack again? If people want to find out and sign up, it's free. You can sign up.
Yeah, thank you. People saying they missed me here, they missed me there. The Frank Figliuzzi on Substack is where you'll see me live. You'll see my columns and recorded things and field trips I take to places like federal prisons. So yeah, join me on Substack.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.